Hey ninjas! So here we are again. It's the Lee and Lizzie show. Hey Lee.
Hey Lizzie, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. So we're here with our third video, I think it is Lee now in the series,
Yeah.
and we're going to follow on from what we were talking about last week when we were talking about basically helping you to get off the starting blocks with your people tech implementation. And we talked a lot last week around doing all of your desk research and kind of getting yourself in a position to really get started on the project. And so this week, Lee, we're going to be moving into stage 2 of that process, which is all around pulling together the business case and starting to think about the return on investment and how we present that back to our businesses and to our stakeholders. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We'll be setting off to chat through the business case. We've got a few bits of collateral that we'd love to share with you. Hopefully some valuable stuff that you can take away, copy and paste from, or just clip out of and get quick value from, we hope.
Brilliant.
So me and my lockdown hair are going to take you through that right now.
Your lockdown hair is looking just fine.
I think that lockdown has allowed me to reinvestigate haircuts from the early noughties. So there's 3 things to download here. There's the business case overview, which we're going to walk through imminently. There's business case template info, which is a bit supplementary to that, and I'll quickly touch on that in a few minutes. And then there's a business case calculator, which is a tool we've put together sort of to help you work out your return on investment, your costs and benefits and those kinds of things. So I'll walk through each one of those in a second. I've cheekily got all of those open already so that I don't have to download and open them as we go along. So this is just a simple PDF that you can download, print, whatever else you would like to. You'll recall last time we talked through the importance of the heat map, and that whole journey will have helped arm you with the information you need for your business case, and it'll have you really au fait with the problems that you're trying to solve through the implementation of some people technology, whatever that may be. So there's just a little bit of context there to remind you about that journey that you've just been on. The next piece is about the business case itself. So we've got in here the sort of headings that we'd expect to see in a standard business case, a bit about business context and heat mapping and all that lovely stuff. But before I go into that, I think it's important to talk about why a business case is important, because it's very easy as the HR person who's just done all that research and now understands where the business pain points are and such, to assume that everybody else also knows those things, and some of them will be really painful and really obvious to you, and someone else coming into the project or someone from outside may not understand those things quite as well. So a business case is a really good way of articulating what those things are and controlling how a project goes. As soon as you talk about introducing a new piece of people technology, or any new pieces of technology really, the natural reaction for people is to go, how can that help me? How can that solve my problems? How can that, what can we do with that to make my life easier, or give us an additional return on investment, or whatever else those things are? So the scope of your project can grow really quickly if it's not controlled. So there's 4 key things for to a business case for me, and the scope is the first and most important one. What are the things that you want to deliver, and how then, once you've ring-fenced what the thing is that you want to deliver, you can control that, what we call scope creep, where someone says, oh, it'd be good if it could do this. Yeah, but that's not in scope. And, that's not to say you should never listen to those things or never try to achieve those things, because if they're going to be valuable for that individual, they're probably going to be valuable for the business. So if it stacks up, you can always bring more things into scope through what we call change control. But having an initial set of scope that your budget is attached to and everything else is really, really important. So scope is first and foremost. The next thing is about return on investment. So you need to be able to quantify to people that this isn't going to be just an ongoing cost to the business that never goes away. It needs to be able to pay for itself. It needs to be able to prove its value. In this day and age, and particularly in retail, you absolutely need to provide that financial reasoning for introducing any product. And then the two other bits that are really
sorry, Lee. I was just gonna interrupt you there because I was thinking about that whole return on investment piece, because quite often in HR it can be really difficult to define a return on investment, because a lot of the stuff that is returning is not necessarily tangible. So will you be giving us some pointers and some help in terms of how we can perhaps identify and articulate that return on investment?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. How do you financially qualify the system is easy to use, and how do you say that is a thing that's going to be valuable? But it's obvious to anyone who's ever been an end user of a crap product that it's important for people expect as ease of use with a system. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And yeah, when we come a little bit further down, when we talk about intangible benefits and tangible benefits, we'll walk through some of those, and we've got some examples that you could hopefully just sort of rip out of this document and go, yeah, that's me, yeah, that's me, yeah, that's me, no, that's not me, to again help make this sort of process a little bit easier.
Cool.
So the other two important bits in the business case are what I'd call business benefits and critical success factors. So business benefits are what the business is going to get out of having the system, apart from financial return on investment. What are the benefits to the business? And that might be something as simple as filling some of those red gaps in your on your heat map. So I've got a problem with recruitment. So a business benefit will be recruitment process will be easier, and this is how we qualify it. Critical success factors are more about holding the project to account. So they're about, have you hit budget? Have you delivered on time? Have you met XYZ criteria that says the project is successful? So defining those two things up front, the business benefits and the critical success factors, will have everyone involved in the project, all stakeholders, but also internal team, really lined up on what they're shooting for. So when they're sat in a meeting deciding whether to do it this way or that way, they can refer back to the business benefits and say, well, if we do it this way, we're not going to achieve that business benefit. So we must do it that way. And it'll help with some of the decision making as you go through the project. So I'm going to just jump into, like I said, these are the sort of headings we'd expect to see. I'm not going to go through them in masses of detail. There's really 6 steps that you'd go through for the business case. And again, we've tried to make this as easy as possible for the ninjas. So business context is about being able to say, for our company, this is how things are. These are the pain points. These are the what we're proposing as potential solutions. So it's really just a high-level walkthrough, so anyone reading it can quickly bring themselves up to speed about the company. You might put about number of employees or number of payrolls, all the things that are going to be important to the project in here. But literally, you could copy and paste this from out of the document into your business case and fill in the gaps, and you'd have a good starting point. I'm sure the ninjas, once they get going on this, they'll probably be adding more things that they feel are important as they go in, but this is a great starting point to sort of set that document up.
So they can literally lift this, Lee, and fill in the gaps as appropriate. Then that's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this will give them a good starting point, and it'll set them up for the project. And documents like this, while they can feel quite painful to produce, they're really important for, as I said earlier, everyone being on the same page. Like if I might ask you to think of a bus, what's your bus look like?
Are you actually asking me?
I'm genuinely asking you what colour bus are you thinking of?
Oh, God, I'm not very creative and out of the box. My bus is red.
Right. So you're thinking of a London bus,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. I might be thinking of a northern bus, or I might be thinking of a yellow school bus from the last American movie that I watched. Right. So the importance of these documents is around everybody seeing the same bus. Yeah. If we say I'm going to introduce an HR system, your view of what that HR system and my view of what that HR system might be really different. So these documents are really important to have everybody looking towards that same bus or HR project.
Yeah, brilliant.
So we'll just call back onto the heat map. So the second section of the business case, we normally recommend you pop in the heat map information in there. But at the same point here, now you've really identified the red things that you want to try and tick off through the project. You might also be now thinking about, well, what are the KPIs? What are the metrics? What are the numbers that I can attach to that particular red thing, whether it's number of applicants, and because I've got an area around applications that is a challenge, how am I going to measure whether this has been successful? So as we're doing the heat map and benchmarking, that's the time to start thinking about what the KPIs are. So key performance indicators are that go with each one of these red areas that we're trying to tackle. And then we get into the fun bit. So this is the numbers bit, right? So this is where the finance guys' ears will prick up. So I'm just going to show you this thing here. So let's blow that up a little bit. Okay, so this is our calculator that we've put together to help you with really understanding the numbers around your business case. So down the left hand side here, we've got things to do with the project, and on the right hand side of the numbers, at least, we've got the ongoing costs and savings. So there will be a setup, and then there'll be what happens in what we call business as usual. So as things have been delivered, then what will they cost and what will they save as they go along. So down the left here, we're going to say how long the contract is, because that's going to affect the total cost of ownership. And if you are doing like a site-by-site distribution of the costs, then you put in how many sites you've got in here. Otherwise, just put one in there, and that will have all the costs marked as central. So then once you've worked out how much your project's roughly going to cost, and we'll come on to that next week, because we'll need to do things like a resource plan. Next week, the week after. So in the setting the project up for success, we'll go through resource planning and how you get to these sort of numbers here. And then any projects that you're not delivering because whatever it was is now going to be delivered by this project would have been budget that you've put aside, so you can pop that in there if you want as well. Most what we call SaaS products, so that's software as a service, where you buy a piece of software and it keeps updating on its own rather than you out building your own project. Most products these days are software as a service, so you pay a license fee for that, so a monthly charge, and those would go in here, so that monthly cost. And then you'd pop in things like internal support costs. So if you had a help desk, any change budget that you might want to put aside on a monthly basis, so those would go in here. And then we come to the important bit on this page, which is what the savings are likely to be. And this is really important. So again, this calculator is giving you some hints on the kinds of things that you're going to save money on with a new product. So things like printing costs. If you have an paper employee file at the moment, or you're doing things on printing posters out, or whatever things are like that, it's likely that you're printing quite a lot of material. So you could save quite a considerable amount of money in printing costs. Similarly, things like changing those KPIs might have a financial value for you. So if you're going to reduce your employee turnover, then that might give you a financial benefit, because as we know, hiring a new employee has a cost to it. And then to sit behind some of these, we've got some other tabs. So management time is one of the key things that you will save if you take an integrated system. So if you're not dual keying new starter information into 3 different systems anymore, you're going to save some either administrator time or management time. So this page allows you to think about what processes might be impacted, describe them, who it is that will save their time, how much they get paid on an estimate, how many hours they'll save, how often they save them, and the scale on which that's done. So how many sites that might impact, etc. So this is going to sort of do the maths for you. The blue column, I'll add these up if you drag the formulas down, and then it will give you a total saving in that end column, which will transfer to the front sheet here. So you can see that number there. And similarly, systems to be replaced. So again, if you've got systems that you're taking away, that putting that cost in this tab here will again pass that information back to the front calculator. So again, this is going to give you loads of useful information and loads of steer towards the things that you could be thinking about how you save money with your new system. And then that'll all do lots of maths and do what it needs to work out over 5 years how much it's going to cost in total. So that's all these ongoing costs plus your initial setup cost, and how much benefit you're going to receive, and tell you where your return on investment sits based on all of that maths. So lots of steer from this calculator to help the ninjas really articulate what the benefits of a project would look like.
I think, and that's brilliant. I think with some of this, it's much easier to be more prescriptive around the numbers side of things. So where my head's gone to is thinking about the less obvious benefits of introducing a system. So things like the impact that it will have, and I'm going to say another 3-letter acronym now, on the EVP. So the employer value proposition. So basically, what that means is that obviously if you're streamlining things on the inside, the impact of that on candidates, for example, that are coming through that recruitment journey on the outside, the impact will absolutely be felt by them. The whole process will be slicker, but putting a pound value on what that will do for your business is actually quite difficult. And equally thinking about that employee life cycle, and where a HR tech solution will help with regards to things like employee development. So you think about, an appraisal module or whatever, that will arguably increase employee engagement internally, because people feel that there's a process, that they're getting feedback, that they're cared for, that they're involved. But again, putting an actual pound amount on that sort of stuff is really challenging. So I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I think what we'd be saying with that is that we'd have to try and do a best guess scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think what I try and do is keep that as a separate, keep that as part of your intangible benefits. So we talk about tangible and intangible. I mean, honestly, this calculator is about getting your project past IT and finance. Yeah, so it's about being able to say, regardless of all this intangible stuff, the tangible stuff that we can put a number to adds up, and there is return on investment in what is an acceptable period of time, and your finance team will tell you how soon they expect ROI on a project to be. It might be 2 years, it might be 4 years, depends on the scale of the project, and it depends on how big the pain points are and how real those pain points are to the IT and finance guys that you're trying to push it past, right? If they're using a system to manage their teams that's really painful, then there'll probably be a little bit more leeway than if they're sort of separate from that system, and actually the systems that they use don't seem that bad, because there's a lot of stakeholder management in this whole process. But this part of the business case, as I say, try and think of the things that are absolutely tangible, and you don't have to argue to say, well, the EVP improvement's going to give us £500,000 worth of benefit. Well, that's just a number you've made up. It's really difficult to stack that up. So I'd focus here on the things that you genuinely can easily qualify if challenged on that particular cost, because if the system is worth its salt, these numbers should stack up fairly quickly, and you shouldn't be in a case where you're scrabbling around for another £1,000 worth of benefit here and there, so that it looks like you get ROI in 2 years. It should give you return on investment fairly quick. And what
there's a 3-letter acronym on there, Lee. I hope it's on the Jargon Buster. What is TCO?
Total cost of ownership. So that is, if it's not on the Jargon Buster, it will be next week. So that is all these costs for the initial setup of the project, and all these and savings, and then all these ongoing costs for that whole 5 years, all added up. So you've got left side what the cost is, and right side what the benefit will be. Okay.
Cool. Okay, looks good.
Right. So that should help the guys out. I'm going to flip back to my overview. So then we get on to exactly what you were talking about, the intangible benefits, and these are important things to get into the document, because if I just pick something like risk and compliance, the value of being compliant is really difficult to put a number on. Now you could say for things like right to work, the expected fine for breaches of right to work is this much, but you can't put a value against what the brand damage would be if there was something in the press about all the right to work breaches in your organization. So if those were things that came to fruition, the brand damage would be massive, but it'd be really difficult to say this is the cost of that. So again, EVP, employee experience, having one set of employee data that is true is, again, is massively valuable, because if you're entering data into multiple systems, you might have multiple start dates for different people, and how do you know which is the right one? So all of these things, again, I'm not going to go through these one by one, but have a look at these and see what you think are the ones that are right for you. All of these will be valid for most people. There'll be others that you'll think of that absolutely need to be in there too. Next bit, again, this is about getting this past your stakeholders, whoever the sign-off is, for being able to articulate clearly on a page, this is where we expect to see our money back. This is how we expect it to pay for itself based on those. And it's also worth, you can see we've popped on there cost of delay. There may be things that are bleeding cash, systems that you've got that are costing you money that you need to replace as part of this project. So it's worth thinking about, for every month, this is how much it costs us too, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. So other considerations, so again, popping into your business case, finishing it off with things about what the journey is going to look like, potentially what your future aspirations are. So it may be that you're writing a business case for an HR system right now, but you have future aspirations to also do scheduling and add employee engagement that will be a future project. Those kinds of things important to get in here, so that the person who's reading this knows that this is the first part of a larger journey, or whatever else.
What's your sort of advice on that, Lee, in terms of whether to go for everything all at once with when you're introducing people tech, or whether it's better to break it into bite-sized chunks and actually tackle, like you say, one kind of section of that employee journey or that employee life cycle, at any one time, and then build, take the learns from that and then go again? Or actually do we just think, just do it all in one go?
Yeah. So I would be driven by the heat map to make a call on that. So if you've got this portion of your heat map that's really green and people like the systems and whatever else, you don't really want to be ripping that out for the benefit of doing one big thing. If you've got a lot of red scattered all over your heat map, then maybe it's worth doing something sort of big, hard change that sort of cross company, and you just do the change once. I think most companies will go, we'll do this module and this module first, and we'll manage the business change around that. You know, if you think of something like scheduling as an example, the change management attached to changing the way that managers do schedules and the way that employees receive their schedules and swap shifts or whatever other magic things they can do on there is quite a big piece of change management on its own. You know, I'd say scheduling's the only real bit of HR technology change that really needs face-to-face learning, not necessarily directly face-to-face. It can be done virtually, but you need to be able to have a conversation, because scheduling itself is inherently complicated. There's a lot of number crunching and whatever else goes along to build it. So, but you know, generally speaking, people will go, right, let's take these 2 modules, these 3 modules. HR's not, if you haven't got a HR system, HR normally would go first, because that feeds the employee data to all the other systems, and keeps you that single version of the truth. But yeah, I think it depends mainly on your heat map. A lot of red, just go for it and do everything in one go. If you're, but set yourself up for strong business change, you know, and bring your business change team in right at the beginning of the project, so that they're able to support right the way through and understand what it is, and be able to articulate that back to the business. But if we're talking, we're just putting, you know, an engagement portal in, you might be able to do 60% of the project before you bring your business change guys in, because they're fairly, you know, out of the box, straightforward things to deliver.
Yeah, you've got to think about the bigger picture stuff as well, haven't you, Lee? Because it's all well and good going for it and implementing a new system, but if nobody knows kind of the why, you know, what are the pain points that it's actually trying to solve, and what does it mean for them, and also kind of wrapped around that is the ways of working, and it's almost culture change as well. So once you start layering all of these other pieces onto what you think is supposedly a simple people tech implementation, it actually snowballs into something much bigger than that, in terms of, you know, the whole cultural piece, and encouraging managers, for example, to change their behaviors. You know, so it's not just a case of, you know, plug in the system and off we go. It's all of that other stuff that's around the edges that, you know, as HR, we need to be thinking about to make sure that people are going on the journey with us and not just being kind of done to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's great examples of just things like booking holidays. In my team, we book our holidays on a spreadsheet, so I don't want to put them in the system, right? But I need you to put them in the system now. Or my managers send me an Outlook invite for when they're on holiday, and I just track it, and that's fine. You know, those things work, and getting people to change those behaviors is all about, again, going back to your business case and being able to pull out the benefits for that individual, thinking about what those audiences are and saying, yeah, you've got to change the way you do this, but here's the reason why, and these are all the great things that come alongside of that. So yeah, it's all very, it's not difficult, it's just there's a lot to think about, and you need to have this kind of stuff set up so that you're in a good place and you set yourself on a good footing.
I worked in a business once that tried to move from paper pay slips over to obviously online, so, you know, self access. And because they didn't do enough of the peripheral stuff around the reasons why we were doing it and helping people on that journey, you know, there should have been a proper kind of education campaign around, you know, this is how you access your pay slip, you know, walk through demos and things like that. Because they didn't do all of that, actually 2 years later, what's actually happened now is that 70% of the workforce have gone back to requesting paper pay slips because they simply haven't been able to get their heads around this newfangled tech of downloading it online. So it's just, I thought that was quite an interesting example of how, if you don't get the culture change piece right and sitting alongside the people tech change, then it won't land properly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one of my key bits of advice for setting your project up for success is making sure that your end users are well represented in your project team. So whether that's bringing someone back from the operations team, if that's who your project's going to impact, and having them as part of your business change team, or whether it's having a really strong user group, it's absolutely vital to making sure that the project team don't end up in that ivory tower where, you know, the reality and the vision don't really match up. So yeah, we'll come up onto that in a couple of weeks when we talk about setting your project up for success. Yeah. Next bit on here, we've got this sort of business case templates info tab. Again, this is another piece to download. This is again going to give you some more steer on what things you could potentially think about as you're going through your business case, and make sure we've got things like limited real-time visibility into workforce data. What's that mean? Yeah, so but you'll get that. There's descriptions in there as we go. It's going to talk about risk mitigations. So a project will face some risks, and it's worth thinking about what the risks would be to that project if your senior stakeholder leaves, if X, Y, and Z happens to the business. Have a think about all of those and pop some of them in your business case too. This is a great slide. This is about a lot of HR teams find themselves just doing transactional stuff for a multitude of their time, and they don't really spend the time partnering the way that they would aspire to, or whatever else. And potentially this introduction of technology could take a lot of that transactional crap away and allow them to focus on partnering and strategic planning the way that they really want to and would aspire to, I trust. Again, a bit about the ROI, and then a piece about breaking down the financial benefits into total cost of ownership, functional efficiency, and business effectiveness savings. Again, this is your sort of management time savings. I'd always be mindful when we're talking about saving managers time, which again, we've talked about in the business case calculator, because you won't necessarily see a direct saving. You know, you're not going to save the labor. You say your managers are salaried and they're on a monthly wage. You're not going to pay less people because you've taken this job away, but that should add more value. So again, those managers should be able to add more value because you've taken that transactional stuff away.
Yeah, makes sense. And you're not doing much here to dispel my theory that you guys always talk in 3-letter acronyms. Go back up. Go back up. Where did I see one? It was TBD, I think.
Oh, to be defined. So this is, we don't know this yet. So we've just put those in as placeholders for you to put your numbers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was on. I think it was on a slide with.
It was on the other slide. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, that's just a space for you to write your numbers in. So last two bits on here, just warm up for, again, the setting your project up for success bit, which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. Understanding your stakeholders, really important. And again, just articulating who you think they might be in your business case for those who are coming in from outside. These are groups of people will probably end up being your main audiences for your comms channel. So when you're talking about how you do that big piece of business change, you know, we can have this set of comms for the exec team, this set of comms for managers, this set of comms for end users, whoever those audiences might be for you. Defining those early, again, will help you understand what the tipping points are as you go through the project implementation.
So Lee, are these documents downloadable? I.e.,
yeah.
could I take that stakeholder map then and type into it for my business?
So not at the moment. If you think that those particular slides would be valuable, I'm happy to just pop them in a PowerPoint and put them available for you in a documents for you. But yeah, at the moment they're just on PDF, so you'd have to pick them up and copy and paste them or clip them or whatever else. So if you think that's going to be valuable, we'll do that for you.
I think it would be, yeah. I think if you wouldn't mind doing that for the ninjas, that would be amazing. I think it just means then that they can tailor it according to their their own particular business, their own particular needs, and then perhaps they can use it and take it into those meetings, those board meetings, or whoever it is that they need to sit in front of to talk through the business case.
Yeah, of course. And then last one on here is a typical project structure, so you get an idea of potentially how many people might be involved in your project team. Again, this is for a slightly larger implementation, so if you're putting a full suite system in, then this is the sort of scale you should be thinking about. If you put in a small standalone piece of HR tech in, you might not need anything like as big as this. So again, more steer to give you an idea of where we're going in the next few weeks, but having something like this in your business case will help, again, your finance and IT leadership understand what sort of scale you're looking to deliver. So that's the collateral we've got for you this week. Let me stop sharing. Any more questions before we call it a day?
No, that's brilliant. So just to recap then, Lee, in terms of accessing this content, which I have to say it is awesome content. I mean, what you're providing there in terms of resources is going to be so helpful to so many people. And obviously I always look at this through my own personal lens, because as you know, I'm going through the process myself. So as I'm looking at all this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's absolutely going to help me, and I can see me using that. So it's brilliant. And I think you've got a really nice blend this week around providing enough information, but not making it feel really overwhelming and daunting. Which, when I looked at some of the spreadsheets last week, I said to you, I was like, whoa, that's a little bit mind blowing. All brilliant content, but when you first look at it, you're like, wow, that's a bit scary. Indeed. So no, I think what you've shared this week is absolutely awesome. Just in terms of like the next step then, so we've gone through getting off the starting blocks. We've done the desk research piece. This week we've talked about creating and defining the business case and looking at the return on investment. What's coming up for kind of stage 3 of the process?
Yeah, so now we're going to split into 2 streams. So there's the how do I pick my supplier stream, and then there's the how do I set up for success stream. So next week we're going to talk about the supplier beauty parade, so getting some people in, having some demos, what sort of watch outs to things to write down as you're going through those processes, because salesmen are salesmen, right? And then
women.
Indeed, sorry, I forget I'm on with HR. And then right hand side, we're going to think about what the how to set ourselves up for success, because potentially a supplier will come in and go, oh yeah, we can put that in 90 days, and you'll go, yeah, great, and you'll start towards your 90-day plan, and then you'll realize that you haven't got data in a position that allows you to do 90 days, or you're in the middle of an organizational restructure, or you don't know the answers to a lot of the questions that have come up through doing the business case, and you need more time. So both of those things coming up. So we'll do one from each sort of path each week. Next week we'll do beauty parade.
Okay, cool. And so in terms of if anyone's got any questions or anything that they're not sure about, having watched this video, Lee, what's the best way for them to reach out and get in contact with you?
Yeah, just pop the questions on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Either way is fine. Just ping me directly. I'm quite happy to start a conversation or point you to someone else or whatever. If it's a broad question, then I'll try my best to answer it as best I can. What I can't really answer is, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I can't tell you what system to take. So there's not really a lot of value in saying, I need a new payroll system, what shall I have? Can't help you with that. I know some payroll systems. I'm not expert on all payroll systems, but I'm helping you through the people technology journey I can help with.
Yeah, all right, brilliant. Thank you, Lee. Well, until next time, see you soon.
Looking forward to it already. Take care. Bye now.